Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 3 of English 113. I hope that you're all doing well. So, for this particular week, we're going to be shifting gears a little bit into workplace writing more so and doing more workplace-oriented documents. So, the first 2 weeks, we focused on more personal technical documents, that being the resume and the cover letter. Now, we're going to be shifting into writing memorandums. So, for those of you who are unaware, a memorandum is a document that is typically done within a given workplace where it is used as a mode of communication between employee groups or two employee groups, or from one body to another within that given workplace. Okay. So, we'll be talking about that here in just a minute. I do want to overview this week's to-do list first. So first and foremost, obviously, you're going to want to watch the lecture videos. There will be this lecture video, and then there's going to be another lecture video that's smaller that overviews the product evaluation workplace project. This will be the next major assignment that we do, and it comprises of three assignments within. So it's going to involve a recommendation memo, a proposal memo, and then a presentation component. You're going to want to read these pages in the technical and report writing textbook right here, remember, that overviews memos and report writing. And then you're going to want to I would recommend doing the optional material here and reading the Writing Commons article on memos. We'll be looking at that here in just a moment because we're going to be talking about the anatomy of a memo for this lecture video specifically. Read the sample memos right here listed below in the submodule. And additionally, complete discussion post number 3. So discussion post number 3 asks you to review both memos and to identify the intended message and audience. And then note what aspects of the memos you found interesting and or challenging. I want to kind of get your feel for memos as we enter into writing them. And then, of course, this week, the major writing component you will be doing is you're going to be doing some pre-writing and brainstorming. You're going to create a business concept for the product evaluation workplace project. That will be covered in the other lecture video, which will be, again, linked right here. Okay. So let's talk about writing memos first and foremost. So memos, again, are documents that, and mind you, this is in that Writing Commons article. You can also listen to it. Right here, it's a 6-minute lecture. I'm not going to go over this entire article, but the function and audience of a memorandum, the function is to communicate with others within the same organization. Um, and they are geared towards specific audiences or multiple audiences. Organizationally, they can either be direct, okay, or they can be indirect. So this graphic right here shows you what it means when you're organizing a memo and how it constitutes as being direct versus indirect. All right. So being direct means that it's usually more concise. It arrives at the information a little bit more quickly, and it's good for some routine information that's needing to be communicated. And of course, if you look at the content of the actual memo, this shows you what the function is of each section. So there's an introduction, a body, and then a conclusion. Okay. And then an indirect tends to be used for more negative, persuasive, or sales messages, and the audience is usually not receptive. It is intended to kind of build up purpose. So your memo probably will be more of an indirect organization strategy. There is a couple of sample memos built into this, which you can look through that kind of illustrates what those organization strategies look like. So I would recommend giving this a good read or even a listen because this is going to help you um, piece together some more information about what constitutes a memo. All right. So the anatomy of a memo infographic right here that I'm going to be showing you here that kind of overviews things looks at this first sample memo right here. So this first sample memo is a recommendation memo. The second sample memo is a proposal memo. I will be doing a second anatomy infographic and discussion for this one at a later date because you're not going to be doing a proposal yet. Right now, we're just going to be doing a recommendation. All right. So Let me pull up that infographic really quickly so you can see what I'm talking about. This is going to be pretty similar to what the infographic for the cover letter looked like. So, when you're putting together a memo, mind you, this was written by a student in my prior class. This is a made-up person, Janice Hutchinson. She's always my fictional person I go to maintain, my former students' confidentiality. But when you're putting together a memo, you have to think about who the audience is and what the function is of that memo. So when you're thinking of recommendation, obviously that kind of gives it away right there. That means that the purpose of the memo is to recommend something, right? So when you're putting together a memo, you're going to have a pretty standard format. So, first and foremost, in your header, you're going to have the title memorandum. That is very common to have at the top of a memo to designate the function of what the document is. When a group of people see that you're conveying a memo, that means it's a serious form of communication. Now, side note here, if you look here at the audience block, this you'll probably note is a similar format to emailing. So the standard email format, which I think was established in the late 80s, early 90s, back when emailing became like a huge thing in the workplace, they wanted to electronicize memos in some way, because through email it became a little bit more convenient to maintain a paper trail. Okay, because memos are typically kept in retention because within a workplace, you want to monitor communication, right? So thus, they took the or the memo format and turned it into an email. So that's why you'll see an email has the same to, from, date, subject lines, right? Um, Now, so when you look at a memorandum here, the audience block is very important. You need to have who your recipient is. You'll need to have who it's from, so who's doing the writing, the date. Sometimes the date goes on top, depending on the memo that you write. I prefer to have the date right here. And then the subject of the memo is essentially the overall goal or the overall intent of what the memo is doing. So this would be like the heart of what's being recommended. So this student, when they did the product evaluation workplace project for their business concept, they created a fictional pizzeria. Okay. And the purpose of their recommendation was to request a new type of pizza oven. All right. Now, if you look at the body of the memo right here, so you note that it's in subheadings. Okay. I always recommend for all memos, if possible, to always use subheadings because it kind of breaks down the organization a little bit more. This whole section is called the body section of the memo, all right? Sometimes, like if you read that writing commons area, it kind of separates the intro and conclusion from the body. I kind of just weave it all together typically. So if you look at this, I have listed the function of each section. So the introduction and recommendation, the function of this section is to introduce the topic, issue, or concern. All right. Now, sometimes people will break these in two. Okay, you can have them be separate subheadings. Sometimes instead of introduction, one might incorporate the subheading of the issue of concern. They might replace introduction with issue of concern. That could be something you do as well. I trust your discretion. But the whole purpose is to introduce the issue and or concern that's taking place within the fictional workplace that you're going to be creating. Case in point, you're going to be expected to use some imagination for the product evaluation workplace project. The next section is the benefits and costs. So this provides a breakdown of benefits and expenses. When you are in a workplace and you are in any capacity, whether it be marketing coordinator or any other position, and your goal is to recommend and then propose the implementation of a product or service, you need to kind of do a breakdown of what the benefit will be and the expenses, because your CEO or leading group of people, they're going to want to know if this is going to be worthwhile. Okay. So that is what that section does. And then the conclusion is intended to kind of provide the established goals and expected outcomes. All right. So The recommendation memo is intended to be one page. When you do the proposal memo later, it's going to be more than one page. So just keep in mind that the recommendation memo, you are placing yourself in the position of being a marketing coordinator in a fictional workplace that you create. And then your recommendation memo is going to recommend the product or service that will identify the problem that you've identified in that fictional workplace. Again, more on that in the Product Evaluation Workplace Project overview lecture video. Anyway, that is the anatomy of a memo. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to let me know. Ultimately, I hope that you have fun doing this exercise. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.